Hello, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Tierah Ruins Things with Science. In this episode, I'm going to be talking with a friend of mine about his experiences working as a set decorator on The Last of Us TV show for Season 1. This episode will be tying in with the previous episode, the last one of this season, podcast season, not TV show season, where I talked about the science of The Last of Us in more detail. However, I do want to note that at the time we had this conversation, I hadn't recorded that episode yet, so I'm not talking about the science or the fungus too much in this current conversation. If you want to hear all about that, go listen to the previous episode in your feed, which is about the science of The Last of Us. So as of this recording, up to episode 5 of the TV show had aired, so we talked about spoilers and everything up through there. But we did try to not ruin it too much. So without any more ado, here you go. Okay, so without any more introduction, allow me to introduce Jeremy Nordstrom. Do you prefer Jeremy, Norm? Like, I know some
I go by Norm. That's what I
Norm?
was known
Okay.
as on the crew. So
Okay, Norm. All right. So you and I have known each other for probably about 10 years at this point, right?
more than that.
More than that? Yeah, well, it can't be more than 12 because I moved to Lethbridge in 2011, and that's where we met, was in Lethbridge at the Lethbridge Zombie Walk.
It was probably right around then. So yeah, that 12-year mark sounds about right.
Yeah, so it was around then. Anyway, so yes, we've known each other since we were both doing the Lethbridge Zombie Walk. We did that a few times in the spring and the summer because, back then zombies were the big thing. And then
Have they ever not been the big thing? They've been the big thing since the 60s.
They have, yes. It was really big back then because that's when The Walking Dead had just started, I think, or around there. It was just starting. Yeah. So then we were doing that, and we actually attacked a radio station dressed as zombies too. Do you remember that time?
Yeah, that was for Corley's birthday.
Yeah. I don't remember what radio station it was or like whatever it was, but it was for Corley. I remember her. She just really liked
Was
zombies.
it B93? I think it was B93.
B93?
Yeah, I've got a photo of it somewhere. I'll have to send it to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I still have some of those photos too. Yeah. But one of her co-hosts got us to just invade the radio station and attack her for her birthday, which was a lot of fun.
I think she enjoyed it a little too much, arguably.
A little bit. There's one photo of her looking rather beatific as we're all sitting there pretending to chew on her shoulders and her arms.
It's a little creepy.
Well, I mean, I guess that background with the zombie walk and everything gave us a good sort of intro into being interested in The Last of Us.
Oh, absolutely. And the game came out in 2013, so it was right around that same time.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, no, that's right. That would make sense. Yeah. So is that kind of what got you interested in working for The Last of Us? Because I guess I should say like a little bit more details. But yes, you were a set decorator on the set of The Last of Us, which was filmed here in Alberta.
I'd want to clarify. Set dresser. Set decorator is my boss.
Okay.
So set dresser on The Last of Us.
Okay. Set dresser. You know the proper terms, so please correct me when I'm wrong.
All good.
But yes, so it was filmed. When did you come and talk to me about it? It was around September 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they started production like in April of 2021. Mm-hmm. And then they started filming the first few episodes in the June-July period. And as we got around to the episodes that I spoke to you about, the episode that takes place in Jakarta, I believe it's episode 2. Yeah. We were doing a piece for that where we're going to be dressing a biolab and some of the adjacent hallways and offices for that kind of a thing. So I reached out to you and tried to be as very nonchalant as possible and not tell you what I was doing, so I didn't violate some NDA. And ask you, because I knew that you had worked in that field, just sort of what those spaces would look like so that we could lend some kind of authenticity to what we're putting out there, so that if it needed to be, well, what notes would be sitting on a computer? If you had a sticky note of just random stuff, what would be there? What would be on a whiteboard? What would be in your notepads? And then to make it all more complicated, we translated it all into Indonesian and and put it all in place.
Yeah, I remember when you were asking me about this, and then you said that it was going to be in Jakarta, but I'm like, all I had was, stuff in English, so I just gave you what I had. But you had somebody there that actually translated it all.
Oh, we did it ourselves. We put it
Oh,
in
you
Google
did?
Translate it and rewrote it
Oh,
ourselves.
oh no.
It was an exhausting task, but and the irony of some of that is there's so much work that we dress to make those spaces alive for the actors,
Hmm.
so that everywhere you look in complete 360 degrees, it's a fully dressed space. And the
Hmm.
irony of that is that so much of it doesn't make the screen. So
Yeah.
a lot of the work we put in there, you don't see it, but
Hmm.
when those actors walked into that space, there was no doubt to them that they were in an authentic space. And it made the
Yeah.
process a little easier and made everything elevated in its quality.
Yeah, because I when I watched episode 2, I was looking for some of the things that you told me were in there, and they got cut, but that's okay. You did say
Your
that
name is
some of
still on
this.
a whiteboard there for all eternity. So,
It is still somewhere. I have that picture still. And are we allowed to talk about what you said about the video games?
well, now that's something to clarify was a
Okay.
rumor that was going around the set. There was a
Okay.
rumor that they were going to remake the video game based on
Hmm.
the show, and they were doing really high res scans of each set. And ironically, the rumor came from the guy that was doing the scans because he was saying it was doing it for Sony, not for the production. So
Oh.
if there's validity to that, I have no idea. But it was certainly at the time quite the big rumor that circulated
Hmm.
around. Nothing has come of that. If it does in the future, that'd be really cool. But
Yet.
right now,
Yeah,
it's
nothing has come of
not.
it yet. However, that is still cool because you said there were high-res scans. So there is somewhere out there a whiteboard with my name on it, and I have seen it. And it's kind of funny because all the other names are like Indonesian names, and then there's me with my white person name right at the bottom.
Well, your name
I
is
thought that was kind of
slightly
funny.
exotic enough that it blended in.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do have one of those names that's hard to spell and pronounce, I guess.
I struggle with it myself. So.
So so what actually happened was you were very cagey and circumspect and very indirect in what you were trying to ask me for. You just, I don't remember how it started, but you just started asking me about science things and what sort of things go in a lab, and eventually I pulled the information out of you that this is what you needed. And so I just went to all of my, I am a pack rat, so I still have all of my lab notebooks from my university career. And I had, I was doing my master's at the time, so I was done my undergrad, but my undergrad was in immunology. So I had a whole bunch of lab notebooks and everything related to parasites and worms and
Mhm.
all of the bacterial and fungal and yeasty parasites and everything, because we had to draw them in one of my labs. And then I just took all of the other lab notebooks and everything, and I just took pictures and scans and I sent them to you so that you could then use these materials to dress your sets.
Yeah, we use those as sort of an inspiration point, as something to guide our hand to
Mm-hmm.
create new material that just would feel authentic. And I mean, we easily could have just put scribbled nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
but the dictate of this show from our bosses, from our set decorator and from his assistants and our leads, had all said that they wanted everything to be as authentic as possible, so that if anyone did look at the smallest detail, it wouldn't be a load of BS. It would be as honest and accurate as we could make it. And so that was
Mm-hmm.
like one of the reasons why I very carefully reached out to you and I made sure that I wasn't, I emphasized, was not violating my NDA by telling you what I was doing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we were able to use some of the material you provided me for that inspiration.
That's cool. That's cool. What did you tell the other people like that you were working with? Did you tell them that you were doing this, or did you
Oh,
just show up with a bunch of scans?
no, I absolutely told my lead that I'm like, well, I have a friend of mine who works in, I told him sort of the bioscience industry. I didn't really know a good way to put it.
Yeah,
And
that's okay.
he's like, well, that's really cool. And I showed him some of the things you had shown me. And he's like, well, get more of that because that's fantastic.
Oh, that's
So that
wonderful.
was That was kind of where we went from.
What sort of things did you show him? Because I know I post a whole lot of science stuff on social media.
I can't even remember. You sort of gave me notebook examples of just sort of how those things would feel. There was a few photos of like desks and just some general, like, what would your clutter look like? And so I took those photos and we used that as a guide point.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
in the larger biolab, they had like the crew that did the biolab as well. That was a separate crew from me, a separate team. They had an expert that had brought in a bunch of information on that for they kept referring it to as a BSL-4 lab, which I know is a higher biosecurity lab, but it didn't look like a BSL-4 to me, and that kind of bothered me because there wasn't enough of the biosecurity filters to get through. There was no double door systems, and I was like, well, okay, so it's not that. No, exactly. They kept calling it that. So.
Yeah. Just I'm sure I'll go through it. Like, as a side note, I haven't recorded the episode on The Last of Us yet. So
yes,
I'm not sure what I'm going to say in that episode, but just to recap, what I am sure I will mention is that yes, there was a little bit of leeway taken with the BSL-4. So biosafety level 4 labs are designed for things like Ebola and anthrax and things that don't have cures. So in the show, the cordyceps infection would qualify for that because obviously there is no cure. But you're right. There has to be multiple layers of doors, and there are showers and, chemical decontamination rooms. And then there are also isolation rooms so that if once you're in there, you are exposed, then you go into the isolation room and you don't come out until they're sure you're not infected, or you die because they can't risk letting it out.
Yeah.
What I did notice seemed accurate to me is that she was wearing, when the scientist goes in, she's wearing this isolation suit and she has her own air supply and everything. But yeah, so I mean, that was accurate, but no, it didn't look like there was enough doors that she was going through. Maybe they just edited that,
Question for you then. Have you seen the movie Outbreak, the Dustin Hoffman movie Outbreak?
Not in a long time.
Because they open the movie when they go through the lab, they're going through all the levels of the biosecurity lab, so BSL 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you see this progressive level of not only military like code key security, but the levels of safety that go into that as well. I think like I'd love to hear your opinion on the accuracy of that kind of a one, because when I was watching this, like going into this show, the movie Contagion and the movie Outbreak, I probably watched on repeat.
Yes. So Outbreak, I know I've seen it. It's been a little while and I don't remember that part specifically, but so I watched Contagion when it came out, which was before I did my undergraduate degree. And then I watched it, very, very silly. I watched it in the summer of 2020 and it gave me so much anxiety. I didn't sleep very well for like 3 days. Like, that movie is like, I can't, this is called Tierah Ruins Things with Science. I can't do that show because there's nothing to ruin.
It gave me comfort, that show, honestly. Yeah. I would watch that and feel relieved that it's like, okay, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. No, that's true. That's true. So actually what I was thinking of when I was just describing the BSL-4 and labs and everything was the TV show, The Hot Zone. That is based on a book written by Richard Preston, who is a doctor, and it was written on the Ebola outbreak that happened in Reston, and I don't remember the state, but I know Reston, Virginia, or something like that.
I haven't seen it. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out.
Very, very good, and they have a lot of really good portrayals of a BSL-4 lab also. Yeah. One other one that it's not really BSL-4, but in The Rock, which is something I've covered for a previous episode, they have some sort of lab like that. Like there's a couple layers, and they go into a separate room when they're dealing with the nerve gas that came in the the package right at the beginning, and they're wearing suits when they've got their own air and everything. So I mean, I thought that one was pretty accurate also. But I actually, on my list of episodes of things that I might do in the future, maybe for season 2 or whatever, I believe Outbreak is on that list. Outbreak and maybe
It's one of my favorites. So.
Yeah. So how many times have you seen that and Contagion now while you were decorating, dressing the set?
In the dozens and dozens of times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, when I go in to prepare for all of this, as soon as I found out I was going to be able to work on The Last of Us as a set dresser, I went and replayed the game again.
Oh,
And then when I got to each set and I realized, okay, we're going to be working on this sequence, I would go back to the game and I would replay that sequence over and over every night.
Oh wow.
I brought my PS4 up to Calgary and I'd just stay there and play through a little bit of it, go through it, check it out, and then see what details from the game that I could transfer over into the show to try and, I want to make it game accurate as well without just being a carbon copy, but to bring the spirit of that in as much as possible.
Yeah, I feel like they've done a lot of that in reference to a lot of shots that they wrote, particularly in the episode that just aired, which was episode 5.
Episode 5, yeah.
I saw briefly, I think it was on TikTok, like a scene for scene comparison of things from the show versus the scene in the video game. And if I recall, they had basically the same shot when they're in the car and she hands him the old tape of whoever it was, the old Willie Nelson singer, whoever.
That would have been Hank Williams. That's Hank in the beginning of episode 4.
Oh, is that 4? Okay.
Yes.
Anyways, yeah. I think that is like word for word and shot for shot exactly from the game.
Absolutely.
So that's really
and that was the fun thing. And I know that Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, the showrunner and producers, have spoken about quite a bit, that they would try and find the right moments where you do go a carbon copy. And I can't say enough good things about those moments because they're so much fun to watch, because they worked so powerfully in the source material in the game that they translate amazing into a piece of television. And then there was really interesting deviations as well that have made for really amazing television, like the Bill and Frank episode 3. And then there's minor deviations in characters that have been added, like the character of Kathleen in episode 4 and 5 in Kansas City, and changing it from Pittsburgh to Kansas City. So lots of little things like that. They don't do anything to bring the show down by making those changes. They elevate it all for very logical reasons.
Yeah.
But that's just the filmmaker nerd in me that loves that stuff. So
Melanie Lynskey, I think.
Yes.
That's that actress.
That's Kathleen. Melanie Lynskey. She was I had first seen her as Rose in 2.5 Men. So I just can't get that image out of my head.
Yeah, I had seen her. Gosh, I mean, the first thing I saw her in was Ever After, the Cinderella movie.
That's the one with Drew Barrymore, right?
Yeah. So I remember her from that. But then most recently, she was in Yellow Jackets, which was fantastic. First season of a TV show, also on HBO, and a few points was legitimately terrifying to me because I was watching them in my dark basement as I worked out, and there were some creepy scenes in there and made me look down the dark hallway that was behind me. But yeah, I was super surprised to see her in there because I didn't know she was going to be in the show, and when she came up, like, her character, she just plays that type of ruthless half villain so well, doesn't she?
I've heard it described as she is like a kindergarten teacher that's put in charge of the jail. So she has this very sweet demeanor, but she is going to just beat you down if she has to.
That's a really good description. Yeah, that's a really good description. So how did you get the job as a set dresser?
So being involved in the film industry is something I've wanted to do for most of my life. And just for whatever reason, I've never been able to make that happen. So one of my friends had known about this for a long time, and he had been working in film in Calgary and the surrounding areas for a while. And he had heard that this project was coming up, and he was hired to come on, and knew that there was going to be a lot of people needed to make this happen. So he had told me, get in touch with the union, apply to be a permittee in the set decoration department, and then wait for a call. And so he made a recommendation to his bosses that it's like, if you get this guy, he's gonna be good for you. So I owe an awful lot to him for that. I can't say enough good things. And then when I got the call, all I was trying to do is find a good way to impress the people that I was working with. So it was actually kind of funny. I was working in a sewer plant before this.
Oh
So
gosh.
I got the call on a Monday at about 10 a.m. By noon, I had quit my job. By 12, I was on my way to Calgary to go and get a COVID test. And by Wednesday, I was working
You were
on the
working.
show.
Wow.
So that was a very interesting week to say the least.
I bet.
And then after working there for a week, I got to meet some of the people on the build crew, and I realized that there were some things that they were missing. They were missing copies of all of the collectibles from the video game. So I went and got a thumb drive and I put all photos of all of them on there and gave them that. And I think I definitely won them over a little bit by bringing that in. So they brought me in to every so often to work on the build team and to get to some more creative things. I got to make a bunch of notes for episode 1. There's a sequence we called it the Pony Express. It was Abe's apartment, and he's the guy that works in the telegraph office sending people messages. So me and a couple other people, we would work and make all those little messages so that even though they're just blurry in the background, there's full messages written on every single one of them. And that was a lot of fun to put in little Easter eggs there. And honestly, there's a couple I want to read to you because they were so much fun for me. And nobody will ever see them. I know they're there, and I need to share it somehow. So I'm going to read what they were. One of them was, let me find it right here. Okay. I'll read this one.
Okay.
The one that I put in for myself was a message that said, "Send to Martin Nelson, Calabasas, California. Hey, Dad, it's your youngest. I'm sending you this message to tell you that you're a grandfather. Yesterday, we had a beautiful baby girl, Ariadne Emmeline. She has mom's eyes. Wish you two could see her. Maybe someday when it's safe enough for us all to head home. What a great day that'll be. Love you all, Emmanuel and Lynn." And so that was the birth announcement for my youngest daughter, who was born during production. And the fun part was that I had to write all of that before she was born. So that was all put up and filmed before she was born.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I put in another one. There was nods to The Walking Dead. There was a nod to Firefly and Serenity. So I had a message from Malcolm Reynolds because the Fireflies have to talk to the Firefly.
Of course.
And then the most absurd one that I put in was a really weird message about Murder, She Wrote.
Okay.
It was announcing the death of Jessica Fletcher. Now, keep in mind, this was all before we had heard about the death of the actress.
Gosh.
This was well before this. But I had put in a memoriam to Jessica Fletcher, all for the purposes of a really fun pun. And I had said, she got separated from us, but unfortunately, I don't think it was an accident, because scrawled in the ground, the last thing she wrote, murder.
Oh my God.
So just all for that stupid purpose. But there's cool. Just weird stuff that we get to put in. It just kept it be a lot of fun. So that was all the little details I got to throw in. And then that was for one scene. So every single scene has another 1,000 stories.
Yeah. And so from what you said, that they had high-res scans done of all the scenes and all the sets and everything. So those photos, they will exist out there somewhere. And they
of course,
make their way onto the internet or into like photo books or something at some point, and people will find those.
I hope so. I certainly would love to have that. It was a lot of fun getting to produce all that bizarre stuff, just so that these little tiny details would be filled in.
Yeah. One of the things that I didn't mention when we were talking about the lab stuff is that I actually have a connection to the building where that was filmed. And I think I had mentioned this at the time, but those scenes in the Jakarta set, those were filmed in the Senator Burns building on the SAIT campus. That's the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology.
That is correct.
And that was actually the building that I attended classes in when I did my diploma at SAIT in 2003. So I went to the 3rd floor of the Senator Burns building all the time. I lived there for about 2 years. And so when the scenes were rolling, I was like doing the whole Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen going, I recognize that building. I didn't remember that it was that teal aqua like tiling.
That was in the basement.
That would be why. Okay, because
Yeah.
I don't think I ever went in the basement, but yeah, so the labs there, um, they looked a lot better than when I was there. They were looked a lot like
Well,
a
no,
lot
that
more
was just
rundown
the
and sketchy when I
hallways.
was
The
there.
lab itself was not there.
Oh,
So
okay.
just the hallways were filmed in Sate. Um,
Okay.
the hallways to the lab, the hallways to the Jakarta offices, all that.
Hmm.
And then the basement had the hallway to the morgue with
Okay.
the tile. And
Hmm.
the actual lab itself was a set that they had built elsewhere on our stages, as
Oh,
well
okay.
as the morgue. So those were really
Wow.
interesting sets.
Okay.
Just in the studios in Calgary at the stages,
Huh.
we had put all that in there.
Well, that would be why they look nicer because I remember those labs being filled with wooden benches and black, obviously black bench top because for anyone who's not been in a chemistry lab before, you have this sort of stain free black, like, I don't even know what it's actually made of, but it's this hard black plasticky cover so that, because you're going to spill, you're going to burn things, you're going to break glass and spill colored solutions. So the countertops are always black. And it was really old, really, really old. And parts of it were wooden falling apart. And I remember getting some nasty splinters sometimes from those lab benches.
Well, then they definitely made the ones on the set look a lot better, I guess.
Look nicer. Yeah. Okay. So if I understand correctly what you were saying, you were just decorating a set from the first episode with those little notes. Does that mean you worked on more than just the science set? Because that's what I had thought is that you were mainly only working on the science sets.
Oh no, I worked on every episode.
Oh.
So I had my hands in a lot of different sets. I worked in them in a lot of different capacities. I started out unloading trucks. That was the first thing I was doing. There
Mm-hmm.
was a yard full of semi trucks, and I would unload all the furniture for that because they needed options to be able to pick from. So we started loading the warehouse full of things. Um, and then from there, I slowly moved my way, occasionally working with the build teams, and they had us doing a lot of breakdown on clothing. So in the Boston QZ, they're hard to see, but they are there if you're watching for them. There's these clotheslines that are hanging up, and I had to build a dozen clotheslines to put all through the set. So I made them
Nice.
out of an old telephone cord, an old piece of chain, just kind of whatever materials we'd find. And then we'd need old clothes. And so we spent a month breaking down clothes, making them look
Yep.
weather worn, and then put them up there. And I custom made clothespins. We'd carve them out of pieces of wood or out of pieces of metal or chunks of rubber hose, anything to make it look like this is stuff that was picked from the world.
Yeah.
Um, then we just moved on to the next thing and the next thing, and eventually they gave us. I was part of a team that was given sets to start dressing. I got to do a little bit in the Adler House. I actually got to the set of DVDs that you see Sarah going through in episode 1.
Yep.
I put all those DVDs in place. I was working on
Okay.
some of that little stuff, just working through it.
Yeah.
And then, into the next episode and the next episode and the next episode. And there's a lot of little different things that we got to play with, big and small.
That's really cool. For some reason, I mean, it makes sense that you would have worked on everything else too, but for some reason, I thought because you spent so much time doing the science ones, and then that was all my involvement. But yeah, no, it makes sense that you would move around and do all the other
Oh,
sets.
absolutely. Yeah. And so I would try and become an overnight expert on anything that I could. If we're doing, a school office, or if we were doing, we did the hotel lobby. And so I
Mhm.
was like, well, I worked in a hotel for a while. Let me think of what hotel back desks looked like. And I
Yeah.
just went through my Rolodex in my brain and tried to, okay, well, it'd be this kind of stuff when we need sign-in paperwork. And so in that flooded lobby in episode 2, which was one of my favorite sets, by the way, that was a lot of fun to
Yeah.
work in. We had dressed the whole set dry. and then they started
Okay.
filling it with water. And so there's
Wow.
a thousand details behind the desk you'll never see,
You'll
but
never
they're
see.
there.
Yep.
There's,
No, that's really
stacks
cool.
of papers that have, oh, well, this person was staying here. And so we just whatever we
Hmm.
put in there.
Yeah. So it's neat because I was actually talking with my partner about this, and he was saying that the fans of the video games are, and people who play the MMORPGs and other video games and everything like this. He games them a bit more than I do. I've never played a long playthrough game like that. But he said that, fans will go through as you're playing the game and they will look at literally everything on the games on the floor, like all the papers and everything. And there was one game where they noticed that between the two games, it was like part one and part two, like some of the paperwork on the floor was the same, and they threw a kerfuffle about that because they wanted new paperwork on the floor. So
Yeah,
it's great to
stock
know.
files of things. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not like
not.
we didn't reuse a thousand things. We would create a pile of garbage, and the trick was we had to make clean garbage. So you couldn't
Mhm.
just go in a dumpster and pull stuff out. You had to take clean material and make it look dirty so that it can
Yeah.
healthily be around everyone.
Yes, so it
Um,
wasn't actual garbage.
of course, and we would scoop it up when we were done with it and move it to the next set.
Yeah.
So that's a trick used in gaming all the time to save on assets. You create
Hmm.
one pile of garbage and you reuse it. So we
Yeah.
did the same thing too. So it's
Yeah.
not to spoil the magic, but we reused a lot.
Yeah. What you can safely do.
Well, and there were moments where it's like, no, this item was featured too heavily, so we wouldn't,
Mhm.
that would get set aside and used for something else. But there's lots of little things that would just be in our kind of regular cycle of, well, let's go grab the boxes of paper and
The
use
boxes
that.
of, yeah. Yeah, no, that's neat because, like, you again, those high res photos and scans of all the sets are out there. So, at some point somebody may see all of your handiwork that you spent hours and hours writing and setting up.
You never know. So,
Yeah. So did you get to work on like some of the outdoor sets in the different locations around,
oh,
or were you just mainly
absolutely.
kind of the indoor? No?
Um, yeah, I was part of the crew. I went to Canmore for a little bit. That's for
Okay.
episode 6 that's coming up.
Oh, okay.
That was for Jackson Hole. So I got to do some of the exteriors there. I got to work, uh, I got to go down to Waterton and dress some of the interior and exterior sets there.
Okay.
And that's for episode 8. That's for
Okay.
the Lake Town Resort. Um, and honestly, for episode 4 and 5, Kansas City, we spent all of our time outside. So we
Yeah.
were shutting down streets in Calgary and
Hmm.
filling them with garbage and whatever. So there we ended up with box trucks just loaded full of scrap metal and bikes and bricks and bottles and just
Mm.
everything. And then we'd load the streets full and they would come and shoot and then clear it in a day because it's got to be open the next morning.
Right. I remember, like, I live in Edmonton now, and I remember knowing that some of the sets were being filmed up here. I never went down and tried to look at them in the areas downtown myself, but I saw a lot of photos being posted. And obviously now we can watch some of it in the show and see just how like destroyed the streets look like. And like those are actually the downtown of Edmonton where, you couldn't just have it for a week or two at a time. So
Mm-hmm.
how long would you have the sets, like certain streets or whatever, to be shut
Well,
down?
we did a sequence for the opening of episode 5, which was the downfall of Fedra in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And they had taken the old Calgary courthouse and turned it into the Kansas City U.S. Postal Service. And they
Okay.
built a full false front entryway on the back of the building, and we had the whole courtyard. And this is ironically right across the street from the current Calgary courthouse. So that was always really interesting.
Yeah.
We filled the courtyard, we had everything ready to go. And then one night we got the call, okay, well, we have the streets for 24 hours. So we would, as soon as it was shut down, we started dressing garbage out and all sorts of dressing into all these spaces, anywhere we knew that the camera would be.
Yeah.
And we had 24 styrofoam K rails. So like the big concrete barriers that you see on the road.
Okay. Yeah.
We had 24 of those made out of styrofoam that we would move in and around. Trust me, everyone thinks you're really strong when you're holding one over your shoulder, walking down the street with it.
Yeah.
So we would load in all those things, and then they'd come and shoot through the night. And then by morning, it had to all be pulled back and cleaned up. Yeah. And then it was gone. So cleanup was a lot faster than putting it out, but we would only have those streets for a very short period of time. And we would have to be very ready with, well, this is the piles that are going to go out there, and this is the piles that are going to go out there, just to be ready at a moment's notice. We had really good leads that would prepare us for those things. The funny thing about, we've talked about things that you do see and things that you don't see. Yeah. For that opening shot, the opening sequence of the fall of Fedra in Kansas City, they had a tank on set, an actual tank that came off, rolled it down the street right in downtown Calgary in front of the courthouse, a functioning tank that you don't see in the TV show.
Yeah, they cut that? They cut the tank?
They cut the tank. Yeah, I was a little surprised to see that. That was a very big moment when the tank rolled out. It was actually a tank. They had built it it's on the chassis of it like an old M1 Abrams, but they had made it look kind of modern for War for the Planet of the Apes, that when they filmed that out near Vancouver. So yeah, we had a Planet of the Apes tank on set.
That's cool.
Bizarrely fun.
I was about to ask if they got it from the Canadian military bases that are around the area.
No,
but
this
was their own personal tank.
Yeah, everything on the outside of it's all plywood.
Oh, okay. Well, that would have been fun to see.
Well, those were fun. That night we had to stay there for a while because they had like 250 extras coming marching down the streets as they're shooting flares up in the sky, and they're shooting guns off in front of a church. Just it was hilarious and so much fun to be around.
Oh wow. Yeah, I can't imagine. That would have been insane. I wonder what it would have been like for like the people who live where there are condos and that around in the area on the streets.
Oh, there were, absolutely. And all of them were notified. My understanding is that all of them were notified. And, we saw the next morning on Reddit, we'd see a dozen people posting videos from the night before of like, why is this shooting going on? What's happening? I think they're shooting The Last of Us. I think that's what that is. So yeah, it was, they took care of the people really well. That's good. I don't know if we got any complaints, but I certainly hope not.
I hope not. Yeah. No, I remember it, throughout most of last year and late 2021, it was constant posts on all of the Alberta and the local subreddits, all the photos and everything. It was kind of fun to watch.
We took over a lot of spaces. Fort McLeod. We took over High River. We took over Olds. They shot in Nanton for the very last scene from episode 5, the graveyard scene, where you can see a nice little UFA sign as an Easter egg for all the Albertans to remember, the United Farmers of Alberta.
Yep.
Apparently that exists just outside of Kansas City.
Yep, it does now.
Yeah. But they shot up in Grand Prairie, in Edmonton, in Calgary. We did Waterton. We did Canmore. They were everywhere. And we tried to do our best to make sure that when we left a place, it was cleaner than we went in. I think we did a pretty good job of it. I certainly hope so. I was lucky enough not to have to clean up every single one of those. Sometimes it would be like, well, we got to go start dressing the next one. We'll have another crew coming to clean up. So.
Yeah, I just drove through Nanton on the weekends, and I can tell you, it does not look like there's still any sort of a film set there.
Well, what's actually really interesting with a lot of that, anytime you'd see anything about 20 feet above the ground is all digital. It's all the vines, all the overgrowth, the broken buildings. If it's 20 feet up, that's pretty much digital. But 20 feet down, 9 times out of 10, that's all there.
Real?
That's all real. They put,
and that's
vines
a lot
up,
of work still.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a lot of work.
We did for episode 3. There was a gas station in Pritis, just outside of Calgary. That we had to change over 20 years of destruction in about 3 hours. Yeah. So we had spent days preparing this set, making it look like it's 2023 and the ground is broken and there's vines everywhere and the paint's peeling and just destroyed.
Hmm.
And in the course of 3 hours, we cleaned every single thing up and made it look brand new,
Like it
beginning of the
was.
outbreak, so that they could film the flashback sequences.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't think we'd ever be able to do that, but my goodness, when you have enough people on hand, you can do anything.
Yeah, and I imagine that most of that set, because that gas station, it's not that tall. It's probably not more than 20 feet. So that was probably all like real too. That was probably
Oh,
not digital.
100%. They repainted the building
Oh,
in
wow.
3 hours. They made it look trashy, and then they came in with rollers and painted the whole thing up. It was
Wow.
impressive. And then
Yeah,
they
that is
painted it
impressive.
again to put it back the way it was when we got there. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Well, so now that this is over, I know you had mentioned something. If you wanted to talk about it, you don't have to, but you had mentioned that you're working on a script with a friend of yours for
uh,
something.
yeah, actually, a friend of mine, Tarek Johnson, while we were working on the show in Calgary, we were living up there
Mhm.
together. We were both away from our families 5 days a week. So on our nights, we wrote a bunch of stories. We put a script together called Attack of the Killer Snowman. It's actually a story that I developed 20 years ago when I was in high school.
Wow.
And so now we're working on a couple projects trying to make something out of that.
Okay.
We're actually filming a little short film as sort of a promo piece for it coming up. So we're hoping we can take that to maybe a couple film festivals and see if we can get some interest and get somebody to give us some money to make it.
Yeah, that'll be neat. That'll be real
Oh,
neat.
absolutely.
So do you have contacts for, if the film industry ever comes back to Alberta? Because I know we've had lots of other like high profile films filmed here. Brokeback Mountain was filmed here, and Interstellar, the cornfields and everything were filmed here in Alberta also. So do you now have like contacts where you know
Well,
of projects that
I'm
are
a
coming?
I'm a member of the union, so I do have
Hmm.
access. They tell us what's coming up. There's honestly, it's not like the film industry ever left Alberta. It's been here and it's been pumping out steady year
Hmm.
after year for the last, 40 years almost.
Yeah.
Um, they filmed the original Christopher Reeve Superman. Calgary was Metropolis.
Really? I did not
Yeah.
know that.
I mean,
Wow.
like Alberta stood in for Smallville. You can go to Clark Kent's homestead just outside of Vulcan, actually.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, so they're
Where
still
just
pumping
outside
out.
Vulcan?
Oh, I'll send you the address. Don't
Oh,
worry.
okay. Because my family lives just outside Vulcan too.
Yeah, so there's still plenty pumping away. There's another season of Fraggle Rock that's filming right now, I believe. Um, there's Billy the Kid. There's quite a
Yeah.
few different TV series. There's movies that are coming up. So I'm hearing the rumblings all the time. They just announced season 2 of The Last of Us is going to
Mhm.
be coming soon. So we've got our fingers crossed that they're going to come back to Alberta for that.
Hopefully. A lot of
Well,
the
for
cast
those
have
of
been
you,
saying,
for the people that know the video game, they know that there are locations from the first that are returned to. So I'm kind of hoping that they'll just use the excuse that, oh, we filmed those in Alberta. We better go film them there again.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so the film industry hasn't stopped, and I don't think it's gonna stop. There's a lot of big projects coming in that I'm excited for. I'd love to be able to go and work on some more. I've honestly counted myself pretty lucky because I live in Fernie, BC,
mhm,
3 hours outside of Calgary.
yeah,
Um, so when I'm not working, I'm home there.
yeah.
And I was actually kind of lucky enough there's lots of projects that are filmed at the ski hill there as well. They
Oh,
filmed
okay.
Hot Tub Time Machine there. Um,
That was a
there's
good
just
movie.
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
a little Hallmark movie actually they just filmed there, and so I was able to go and work on that for 9 days. So
Neat.
it's just nice knowing that honestly, if you look hard enough, you can find that work anywhere.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's good to know because, I mean, I've heard, different movies, this big name or that big name movie is here. I didn't know there were so many little projects, but that's good. It's nice to have different industries in the province, something outside of, oil and gas. That's kind of what we're
Oh,
known for
honestly, I'd
worldwide,
love
right?
it if we were known for film. The
Yeah,
IATSE Film Union they're a great group of guys that are pulling for us
good.
and defending our trying to make sure that good projects are coming in, and the people that are working on them are treated really well. And I'm quite grateful to be a member of that. I'm going to keep on paying my dues for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I've heard, a lot of the cast are saying that the filming in Alberta was one of their favorite experiences, and that they just had a wonderful time too. So that's really nice to hear too.
Oh, I'm very happy to hear that. And honestly, the cast was wonderful to work with as well. There was only a few times I was on set with them, but every single time they were absolute professionals and just wonderful people to be around. It was great to see Bella and Pedro on set and see the relationship that they had as actors that shows on screen. Those two had this interesting father-daughter bond as actors, not just acting, but as people on the side too. They were wonderful. And from this last episode, the young boy that played Sam Kivon, what a cool kid. He was so nice. I only ran into him a couple times, but him and his mom were wonderful people. That kid just had energy pouring out of him. So there's wonderful people in front of and behind the camera.
That is so good to hear. It's nice to hear that the people that you look up to on the screen, they're nice people behind the screen too.
I mean, the bad apples exist too, but I didn't come across any.
Well, that's good. Well, I think we should probably wrap this up. We've been talking for about an hour. I will probably edit that down, and I'll do like a fancy outro and everything for this.
Well, no, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to get to be able to talk to you about this. So,
Yeah, it was nice learning some more details about what happened with all of the things that I sent you way back when, a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that time wasn't wasted. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on and chatting. Also, it's nice of you to want to tell me about your experiences.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was a great conversation. It was so much fun to learn all those behind-the-scenes details and all the good things about the crew. Thanks again to Norm for coming on the show and for asking my help in the first place and letting me be just a small part of this. As always, you can find me on social media that I'll list in the show notes. You can find transcripts and extra info for each episode at tierahruinsthings.com. I do all the research, writing, and recording, while James Stratton Crawley kindly provided the theme music. Take care, and I will see you next season.